Ako po ay si Norma Tumbali, isang miyembro ng GABRIELA DC, USA. Ako po ay isang traffic victim ni Mr. Isidro Rodriguez na lumabas sa aking shadow, or should I say, humingi ng tulong sa kinauukulan, lalo na sa GABRIELA, na nagbigay sa akin ngayon ng aking kasalukuyang estado as a traffic survivor, and I'm holding right now a T visa status here in the United States.
My name is Hillary Chester. I'm the Associate Director of the Anti-Trafficking Program at the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops in the Office of Migration and Refugee Services. The chair of the Committee on Migration is Bishop Eusebio Elizondo, who is the Auxiliary Bishop in Seattle, Washington. I believe that the Gabriela Group represents a clear case of labor trafficking, and I support them as they seek justice.
I realized that I was a trafficking victim when I heard about the trafficking, the real meaning of trafficking itself, when Ms. Susan Pineda and Ms. Jo Kembao went house to house and spread the information on what is trafficking, who are the traffic victims, and what are the things or what are the benefits that they can get if they come out of their shadow. So basically, the information dissemination last year made me come out in the reality that yes, I am a trafficking victim of Mr. Isidro Rodriguez.
Ako po si Susan Pineda. I'm the Vice Chairperson for International Relations ng Gabriela, Washington, D.C. I started reaching out to Katarungan, which is the organization that I belong. It's the Center for Justice and Peace in the Philippines. And I asked my colleagues in the organization, Jo Kiambao, Pia, and Kat and Kadante to, to come up together and how we can help the teachers. So that started us, meeting the teachers, going to their houses. It was like more of knowing more of their needs. So we had this house-to-house meeting on Saturdays and Sundays, having lunch together, and we learned from them, their stories.
I started submitting my resume through a friend, and then he submitted that resume to the secretary of Isidro at that time, who is Brenda Yogyog. And I got in touch with Brenda during the orientation training at Traders Hotel. So that started the process. After the Traders Hotel orientation, I came to know the fees that I had to pay. But it wasn't broken down into the real fees that we are going to pay in order to come here. I was only informed that I had only have to pay $6,000 and everything will be processed. But when I paid that $6,000, another $4,000 came. After $4,000, there's another $2,500 came, and then you cannot leave the country without paying all your rental, your transportation fee, and your refiling fee. So basically, I spent close to $16,000 to $18,000 just to get here to the United States of America without a promised job.
The anti-trafficking program at the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has always been very focused on providing services, providing advocacy, and education and awareness raising around the issue of human trafficking, particularly for foreign national victims of human trafficking. And so we reached out to the Gabriela Group because we saw that as being an organization that that was advocating and supporting victims and survivors of human trafficking. And at the time, we were trying to launch a new initiative on our part to educate and bring awareness to immigrant communities in particular, who we saw as being vulnerable to trafficking here in the U.S. And so we thought it would be a really good connection to have, whether we could help them by providing services or by providing resources for their own education and advocacy work, as well as partnering with them on advocacy and policy work that my organization was doing on behalf of victims of trafficking.
When I arrived in the United States of America with the rest of 4 teachers, on the way to Washington, D.C., I wasn't aware that there is no job waiting for me. I was only given that information when we were inside the car of Mr. Isidro Rodriguez already, that the job offering in North Carolina, Bertie County School, is not already available because of the global recession and because they are laying off teachers already. So that's one factor that Mr. Rodriguez said that there is no work for me and the rest of the teachers that she picked up from Dallas airport at that time.
Well, basically, the teachers were lured, they were duped, and deceptively recruited by this recruitment agency of Isidro Rodriguez. He used almost 3 or 4 names of recruitment agencies, from World Goal to Great Provider to Renaissance. They were made to pay $15,000 to more than $20,000 in coming to the U.S. for a job in a public school in North Carolina, which was never existent. And the recruiter promised that, the soonest that they will get here, they'll get, this lucrative position with high paying salaries. So the teachers, were hoping that the moment they start here, they can repay the huge debt that they were duped to get in the Philippines through the recruitment agencies that were lending agencies that were endorsed by the recruitment agency itself. So they borrowed money from different lending institutions. They sold their properties, everything. Nothing was left. One of the teachers even lost everything. And imagine, her families now are just staying with the in-laws. Coming here, after paying all those fees, that promised job is nowhere to be found. So they were kept in silent by the recruiter. He divided the teachers from each other. Some were kept in places where there is no access to public transportation, where there is no access to communication, where they have no access to anything. And the recruiter was in full control and full manipulation of these teachers. So he would bring them to grocery to buy their airbed because they were brought in, cramped, substandard housing where there were almost like 10 to 12 people or more than that number living in one apartment. They were living, they were sleeping in floors without any mattress. All they have is their bags or whatever blanket that they can put, as to cover them during the winter season. And then after that, the recruiter would just say that, this school that petitioned you doesn't accept the teachers anymore because of the recession. It's a cycle of lies telling them that, it's recession, the public schools doesn't have money, your position is already filled up, or the schools are not hiring anymore.
So we've partnered with Gabriela Group in a couple of ways. One of the, I think, most positive ways, and one of the ways that I'm really excited and quite proud of, is that we have a small demonstration project that's funded by the Department of Health and Human Services to provide employment services, both job readiness, job placement, and job upgrade services for survivors of human trafficking. And this program, which we've called the Dignity of Work, is operational here in the Washington, D.C. area, and we've been able to enroll, I believe, over 30 members of the Gabriela Group in this program. And so through the program, they've received case management services, some financial support, and it's really helped some of them find good employment. It's helped others prepare for employment once they have work authorization, and it's helped some of the members who are working move up into better and higher paying work and prepare for higher paying work.
I am a grade school teacher at St. Paul University, Philippines, Tuguegarao City for 8 years. I am an assistant coordinator for civics and culture, and I was about to be promoted at that time. But unfortunately, when Isidro Rodriguez said, "You're about to leave the country, you have to quit your job already because you're leaving in a couple of months." So I decided to quit and followed his instructions. But unfortunately, it took some time before I left the country. Through my mother's help, that I was able to pay all those fees. But it is not because of her money. Inutang din niya yung mga perang pinambabayad namin. Whatever is the money that is being asked by Isidro, I always ask her help. But that money came from loans.
So often in the popular media, in movies and TV shows, and even on the news, what we always hear about are sex trafficking cases. And often the typical victim is a young woman who's being exploited in forced prostitution or some other commercial sexual exploitation. And I think what's really key with the Gabriela group teachers who were exploited is that they're really quite typical of a labor trafficking case where someone made a job offer to some individuals through offering them work in the U.S. The trafficker was able to extract fees, and the victims in these cases took out loans in some cases and mortgages and things in order to provide money to what they thought were going to be legitimate work visas and other travel documents, and then the expectation that they would come to the U.S. and have legitimate work that was relatively high paying. And much like the definition of trafficking, this has the element of someone being recruited, someone being targeted because they had characteristics of being well-educated and skilled in teaching, and yet living in an area where there weren't high-paying jobs, there weren't reliable or stable-paying jobs. And so then they were brought to the U.S., so there was the transporting of individuals. And then when they arrived, it turns out that those jobs didn't exist, and that the paperwork and visas that they had supposedly paid for didn't exist, and so there's the element of fraud.
Well, today we're talking about immigration laws for victims of crime. We're focusing on human trafficking. We have a panel of experts today from federal law enforcement and state and local law enforcement. Thanks for being here. Let's start right off with human trafficking. What exactly is that? What are we focusing on?
Human trafficking is slavery. It's compelled servitude in which a victim is induced to perform commercial sex, labor, or other services, and they're really being controlled by their trafficker through a variety of means of force, fraud, or coercion.
My organization follows both the Trafficking Victim Protection Act, which is the national federal law here in the U.S., as well as the principles of the Palermo Protocol, which is the international definition of human trafficking. And so we recognize that as a crime that has the three elements, where someone is purposely recruited or harbored or transported, maintained under the control of the traffickers using force, fraud, or coercion for the purposes of some form of exploitation, whether that's labor exploitation like debt bondage or forced labor, involuntary servitude, or sexual exploitation where someone's exploited in the commercial sex industry.
I was motivated and attracted to the job offer basically because I need money at the time. My father is in and out of the hospital, so I'm already in deep debt. So one way of lifting the quality of family life, my family had back home in the Philippines, is to work in the United States. And given this offer by Mr. Isidro Rodriguez, a highly paid salary job, vacations, allowances, and medical benefits made me decide to apply and go for it. But unfortunately, those promises, those alluring offers did not come true. It wasn't a reality. Actually, it served as a nightmare to me because I don't know where to start when I knew that when I came to America, I don't have any work, I don't have anything, and I don't have anybody to lean back at that time.
Declaramos en nombre de todos y cada uno de nuestros credos que la esclavitud moderna En términos de tratas de personas, trabajo forzado, prostitución, explotación de órganos, es un crimen de lesa humanidad. Sus víctimas son de toda condición, pero las más veces se hallan entre los más pobres y vulnerables de nuestros hermanos y hermanas.
Pope Francis, before he became Pope, when he was still the Archbishop in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, was keenly aware of human trafficking as a problem within his own country and worldwide. And so with his elevation to becoming the Pope, he's really been able to raise the interest and the enthusiasm in the Catholic Church in all of us fighting against human trafficking, supporting victims and survivors of human trafficking. And he really has made a lot of really, I think, positive statements about the role that all of us play, both in supporting victims, but also in being conscious of how we may be complicit in human trafficking. And he says quite clearly, that if we are all engaged in this throwaway culture where we're preoccupied with consumerism, that we're really ignoring the workers and the people that support that system.
The T visa is a longer-term form of immigration relief that's initially good for up to 4 years. The criteria are that, like continued presence, a victim has to be a victim of trafficking. Victims also need to be cooperating with law enforcement requests for assistance in the investigation, and they also need to be physically present in the United States due to the trafficking or due to the subsequent investigation into the trafficking activity.
The T visa status that I'm holding right now is a kind of status being granted to traffic victims like me. This will enable you to work freely without any restrictions to any employer. And this working permit that is granted is a four-year working permit, and then on the third year, you can already petition by yourself a green card status.
It is very unfortunate that, it took so long before the government, have opened, a very simple opportunity to show these teachers that they will do something on it. But imagine, it took them so long even to start by just writing a simple letter. And that letter is not even required for the teachers to have, for their T visas to be granted. And essentially, the teachers are seeing that the government, is useless for them, that they don't trust the government anymore, because in the past, during that time when Mr. Isidro were bringing the teachers, he would even bring the teachers in front of the labor attaché of the ambassador, bragging them, telling them that I'm giving employment to our less fortunate brothers and sisters in the country. And they are being even welcomed in the embassy during that time. And the embassy, having those teachers in front of them, they haven't checked if they are trafficking victims or what contract they have in this country. And this happened in front of their eyes. And it took another ambassador and another group of teachers to go to the embassy and tell them, hey, look, we are traffic victims. And if not, because of those rallies, of those pressures from the victims themselves, that they will even lift their finger and doing just a simple letter saying to them that, we are certifying that you are part of those victims of teachers. But essentially, what happened way back in that country, from the Philippines, how could we prevent those people from coming into this country? As long as this labor export policy is happening, as long as the government is selling, the people, the professional people, or the migrant workers outside of the country, and as long as underdevelopment is happening in that country, as long as there is no industrialization, as long mass poverty is happening, more and more people will be coming out of that country and seek greener pasture abroad. And hopefully, the government, will take, comprehensive action on those issues, on these issues of the teachers, not only the teachers but the mass population of Filipinos.
Ako ay isang membro ng Gabriela ngayon na lumalabas sa aking kinatataguan. Bakit? Kasi una sa lahat, isa po akong traffic victim. Pangalawa, isa na akong traffic survivor ngayon. Bakit ako naging traffic survivor? Dahil ito sa tulong na ibinigay ng Gabriela sa akin, hindi lang sa pinansyal, kundi sa moralidad, upang maibalik ulit yung pagtitiwala ko sa sarili ko at maibalik ko yung pagtitiwala ko na nawala ng ilang taon sa aking kapwa dahil nga sa inakala kong tao na makakatulong sa akin at sa pamilya ko na Isidro Rodriguez ay hindi pala, alam mo yun, hindi totoo. So sila yung naging sandalan ko, sila yung naging kaagapay ko kung asaan man ako ngayon. Lumalabas ako ngayon bilang isang nag-advocate. I'm advocating for Gabriela right now and I'm fighting for justice because I strongly believed that coming out from the darkness is not just giving you the freedom, but it's giving you also the right to fight for your rights and for the rights of others.
Hi, hi! Hi, hi! Hi, hi! Hi, hi! Hi, hi! Hi, hi! Teachers power! Hi, hi! Migrants power! Hi, hi! Collective power! Hi, hi! Gabriela! Hi, hi! Lumalaban! Hi, hi! Lumalaban! Hi, hi! Gabriela! Hi, hi! Migrants power! Hi, hi! Collective power! Hi, hi! Laban, laban! Hi, hi! Bayan, bayan! Hi, hi! Laban, laban! Hi, hi! Bayan, bayan! Hi, hi! Collective power! Hi, hi! Collective power! Hi, hi! Migrants power! Hi, hi! Workers power! Hi, hi! Women's power! Hi, hi! Workers power! Hi, hi! Teachers power! Hi, hi! Migrants power! Hi, hi! Collective power! Hi, hi! Laban, laban! Hi, hi! Bayan, bayan! Hi, hi! Bayan, bayan! Hi, hi! Laban, laban! 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 Hi, hi! Collective power! Hi, hi! Migrants power! Hi, hi! Laban, laban! Hi, hi! Bayan, bayan! Hi, hi! Laban, laban! Hi, hi! Bayan, bayan! Hi, hi! Hi, hi!
Ako po si Susan Pineda. I'm the Vice Chairperson for International Relations ng Gabriela, Washington, DC. I started reaching out to Katarungan, which is the organization that I belong. It's the Center for Justice and Peace in the Philippines. And I asked my colleagues in the organization, Jo Kiambao, Pia, and Kat, and Kadante, to, to come up together and how we can help the teachers. So that started us, meeting the teachers, going to their houses.
Ako po ay si Norma Tumbali, isang miyembro ng Gabriela DC, USA. Ako po ay isang traffic victim ni Mr. Isidro Rodriguez na lumabas sa aking shadow or should I say, humingi ng tulong sa kinauukulan, lalo na sa Gabriela, na nagbigay sa akin ngayon ng aking kasalukuyang estado as a trafficked survivor, and I'm holding right now a T visa status here in the United States.
My name is Hillary Chester. I'm the Associate Director of the Anti-Trafficking Program at the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops in the Office of Migration and Refugee Services. The chair of the Committee on Migration is Bishop Eusebio Elizondo, who is the Auxiliary Bishop in Seattle, Washington. I believe that the Gabriela group represents a clear case of labor trafficking, and I support them as they seek justice.
I realized that I was a trafficking victim when I heard about the trafficking, the real meaning of trafficking itself, when Miss Susan Pineda and Miss Jo Kiambao went house to house and spread the information on what is trafficking, who are the traffic victims, and what are the things or what are the benefits that they can get if they come out of their shadow. So basically, the information dissemination last year made me come out in the reality that yes, I am a trafficking victim of Mr. Isidro Rodriguez.
It was like more of knowing more of their needs. So we had this house-to-house meeting on Saturdays and Sundays, having lunch together, and we learned from them their stories.
I started submitting my resume through a friend, and then he submitted that resume to the secretary of Isidro at that time, who is Brenda Yogyog. And I got in touch with Brenda during the orientation training at Traders Hotel. So that started the process. After the Traders Hotel orientation, I came to know